In the United States, several ballot boxes with hundreds of early voting ballots were burned in two states just days before the presidential election on November 5th. Palestinians in the northern Gaza Strip are forced to flee following the escalation of attacks by the Israeli occupation forces. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum assured that the migrant flow has decreased and urged to keep working with the next president of the United States. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from TeleSUR Studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In the United States, several ballot boxes with hundreds of early voting ballots were burned in two states just days before the presidential election on November 5th. Police in the states of Oregon and Washington reported that they are investigating the burning of several ballot boxes as the early voting process in the country continues. Authorities detailed that the fires in both states were found to have been set by an incendiary device and explained that they recovered enough material from the devices to prove that the two incidents are related. It is important to note that the ballot boxes were equipped with working fire suppression systems at the polling place in the city of Portland. However, for unknown reasons, they were not activated to prevent the ballot's destruction at the Vancouver polling station. In her fortnightly podcast, Geopolitical Economy Hour, political economist Radhika Desai interviewed former central banker Kathleen Tyson, who is also author of the book Multi-Currency Mercantilism. During the interview, the former central banker gave her impression about the recently concluded BRICS summit and stressed that the bloc is not looking for a new currency but to trade in local currencies of its members.
The Johannesburg Declaration last year was perfectly clear that the BRICS want local currency trade in their own currencies as the preferred objective. And to a great extent, they've achieved that in important ways. 53% of China's trade is now in yuan. Over 90% of trade between Russia and China is either in yuan or ruble. And other countries are making progress.
In another part of her interview, Tyson highlighted the fact that the de-dollarization is not only a BRICS policy but a strategy followed by an increasing number of countries in the world as a matter of economic and national security.
80 countries determined in 2023 to move to local currency trade as a matter of policy. So it's not just BRICS, it's also, I said this last month in Singapore, and I think it resonates, that currency optionality is now a matter of economic and national security. That no country wants the
Turkish security forces arrested 216 suspects of being linked to the Daesh terrorist group. The Turkish Interior Minister Ali Jalil Kaya informed that several arrests have been made in Ankara, Antalya, Istanbul provinces, among other localities within the framework of the ongoing state investigations against the self-proclaimed Islamic State. The Turkish minister explained that the arrest will allow investigating the terrorist group's connections, recruitment, and financing. In addition, the authority announced that the intelligence services continue to work to safeguard citizens from terrorist attacks. Tunisian authorities reported that at least 15 bodies were found off the coast of the city of Mahdia, located in the east of the country. All signs indicate a new sinking of a boat with migrants. The bodies were found between Saturday and Sunday. In recent years, Tunisia has become the main departure point for migrant boats trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea to reach Europe. In this regard, the International Organization for Migration detailed that so far this year, more than 1,000 people have died or have been reported missing while crossing the Mediterranean Sea. In Thailand, a court ordered the disposal of a case against former state security personnel and officials over the death of 85 Muslim protesters in 2004. While there was enough evidence for an indictment, the case was unable to proceed as no suspects were arrested and brought to the court. Therefore, the court issued a disposal order as the 20-year statute of limitations on Friday. The court's statement remarked that the order is not a dismissal of the charges against the suspects, as they had never entered the legal proceedings but fled until the statute of limitation expired. The death denounced in the case occurred in 2004, shortly after a Muslim separatist insurgency erupted in Thailand's southernmost provinces of Narai Thiwat, Patani and Jala, the only ones with Muslim majorities in the Buddhist-dominated region. In the Philippines, authorities reported 116 people dead following the passage of tropical storm Trami. According to data from the National Council for Disaster Risk Reduction and Management, there were also 109 injured, while 39 are still missing. Authorities added that over 1 million people are sheltered in assistance centers after landslides and strong winds caused damage to thousands of houses. The Philippines Meteorological Agency warns about the arrival of a storm Conray with sustained winds of up to 95 kilometers per hour, with forecasts of reaching typhoon category in the next 24 hours. In the UK, local press announced Monday that since October 16th, Woburn Safari Park has taken care of the first eastern mountain bongo calf in Bedfordshire, which is a main success to preserve that critically endangered species. The International Union for the Conservation of Nature Red List classified the forest antelope as critically endangered species, as there are fewer than 100 eastern mountain bongo worldwide due to poaching and lost habitat. Therefore, Woburn Safari Park mounted a breeding program from which the male calf has been the first to be born in over 10 years, amounting to 5 the bongo herd at the park. By the time the calf grows up, he will be transferred to start a breeding group of his own. So far, vets said both bongo mom and calf are healthy. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Lebanese Islamic resistance movement fighters bombed dozens of Israeli settlements in the northern occupied territories. Hezbollah confirmed that a volley of missiles was directed at military targets between the settlements of Al-Manara and Margalio. Before the attack, the Lebanese resistance issued for the first time an evacuation order to Israeli civilians occupying these Palestinian territories. In southern Lebanon, the inability of Israeli troops becomes evident. These operations generate new frictions between Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, who assured in an open letter that a war without a compass is being carried out. In Palestine, dozens of students and teachers died after being asphyxiated by an Israeli tear gas attack in the occupied southern West Bank. According to reports, the Zionist attack targeted a school in the town of Hebron while school activities were in progress. The staff of the institution detailed that they had to evacuate the entire school community through alternate routes to ensure their safety. In this context, the secretary of the Fatah movement asserted that Israeli forces fired toxic gas canisters into the school, causing dozens of students and teachers to suffocate. Palestinians in the northern Gaza Strip are forced to flee following the escalation of attacks by the Israeli occupation forces. The Palestinian authorities announced that Israel increased its airstrikes in northern Gaza against civilian targets and homes for the last 24 days, causing several casualties. The consequences of the incursions and drone attacks by the Israeli regime are the massive destruction of the area and the poor conditions for survival following the lack of resources and emergency care in this area. Furthermore, local media reported that Israel has evicted all refugees from the shelters, forcing them to move. Gaza residents claim that the occupation forces have even prevented Palestinians from walking in the streets and are blocking access to water, medicine, and food. The governments of Algeria and Egypt called for an Israeli ceasefire in the Gaza Strip and stressed the need to restore stability in the region. Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune supports Egypt's initiative for a ceasefire in Gaza and demands that Israel allow the entry of humanitarian aid and stop the extermination against the Palestinian people. While the president of Egypt, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, affirmed that he maintains his position as mediator and said that the solution is to establish a Palestinian state. After their meeting in Cairo, the leaders discussed issues of bilateral interest and mainly their concern for security, stability, and peace in the region. In Spain, over 40 senior state representatives attended on Monday the 9th Union for the Mediterranean (UFM) forum held in Barcelona. The intergovernmental organization is made up of European Union member states and 16 countries from the south and east of the Mediterranean, including Israel and Palestine. Notwithstanding, any Israeli authority participated at the event, unlike Palestine, which has been represented by its Foreign Minister Bassem Agabekian Shaheen. The UFM group met for the second time to mainly address the war escalation in the Middle East in an attempt to settle all disputes and reach regional peace. Minister of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates of Jordan, Ayman Safadi, urged all present to stop the impunity of Israel. In addition, Josep Borrell supported that idea in his following statement. Let's listen.
This is a moment in which the neighboring countries of the Mediterranean have all made their voices heard, calling for a political solution to this conflict, which cannot be other solution, and in this as well we all agree, than a process leading to the creation of a state for Palestine, and here the key word is implementation, not to proclaim the need, but to do what is necessary for this to happen. For 30 years, we have been proclaiming that this is the solution without acting decisively to achieve it.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at TeleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcasting, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum assured that the migrant flow has decreased and urged to keep working with the next president of the United States. The president stressed the need to cooperate with Washington on security issues such as fentanyl and arms trafficking across the border. Sheinbaum also highlighted the differences between her administration and the different right-wing governments, saying that hers respect life. The head of state also affirmed that the lower number of migrants is the result of her government's strategy to address the root causes of the problem.
The number of migrants arriving at the border has decreased due to a comprehensive strategy, and also due to a strategy of repatriation to the places of origin. On December 23rd and 24th, we reached the highest number of migrants at the border, and now with this comprehensive strategy that we have been following, it has decreased significantly. We are working with governments of Central and South America to prevent migration, and we will continue to insist on the bottom line, which is the necessary attention to the root causes. Of course, we must also provide humanitarian attention. Our welfare institutions have very important shelters.
Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum expressed the need to work together with the new President of the United States to address issues such as fentanyl and security.
It is always as we have said, it is coordination without subordination, coordination, dialogue and joint work to be able to especially address the issues that concern us both, particularly the issue of fentanyl in the United States. Since it is a public health issue and it is necessary to address it for humanitarian reasons. President López Obrador brought it up at the time, and I also think it should be addressed, which is what happens on the other side of the border. So, because there is organized crime here, there is a strategy, but what happens on the other side of the border, how fentanyl is sold in the United States.
The Mexican head of state also assured that the national security strategy will provide positive results and will gradually pacify the areas where insecurity and violence are still reported.
There is a security strategy that is going to provide results. As I have stated, it is not going to happen overnight. There has already been a lot of talk during the term of President López Obrador, and there was a decrease in the number of homicides along the tendency. Which is very important. There is still a debate about whether there was more in general. But the tendency is very important. It is not the same that homicides are increasing than decreasing. And we have committed ourselves to gradually decrease homicides because there is a strategy, and we are going to progressively pacify the country in the areas where there are still problems of insecurity and violence. In particular, Sinaloa is a special case, because of what we already know, and there are other areas of the Republic where this issue is being taken care of.
We go to Venezuela now, where the people is commemorating the 3-month anniversary of President Nicolás Maduro's electoral victory in the presidential elections of July 28, 2024. The results presented by the National Electoral Council indicated that President Nicolás Maduro obtained 51.95% of the votes. The Venezuelan people's support for this victory was experienced with multiple mobilizations backing a third term of office for the head of state and with several activities that showed a genuine commitment to the Bolivarian movement. The first vice president of the United Socialist Party of Venezuela, Diosdado Cabello, assured on Monday that the victory of President Nicolás Maduro on July 28th put a stop to fascism in the country.
These 3 months of great victory put a stop to fascism. It set the bar high for fascism in Venezuela. Let's close our eyes in a nightmarish exercise and imagine the opposite, that here in Venezuela fascism had won. Venezuela would be the scenario of persecution of the militant men and women of the revolution.
The first vice president of the PSUV also assured that Venezuela managed to block fascism, while other Latin American peoples continue to struggle to free themselves from this evil.
So Venezuela managed to block fascism in this part of our America, while in other countries the people are fighting. For example, in Argentina, fighting against fascism and the forces that believe themselves to be absolutely superior, hegemonic and excluding.
The government of Venezuela advances in its food policies with the implementation of fares with affordable prices for the population in several municipalities of the country. Thousands of Venezuelan families benefited from the Campo Soberano open-air fairs, where vegetables, proteins, toys, and other products were sold at affordable prices. Recreational activities and medical attention services were also provided to the communities during the day, benefiting young people and senior citizens alike. The Campo Soberano Fair seeks to strengthen the social protection of Venezuelan families. The president of Bolivia, Luis Arce, led a meeting with a high-level commission of the People's Republic of China in the framework of the Joint Economic and Trade Commission between the two countries. Through his social networks, the Bolivian head of state informed, "Today, in Casa Grande del Pueblo, we held an important meeting with a high-level commission of the fellow People's Republic of China, headed by the representative of international trade, Wang Shouwen. Within the framework of the Joint Economic and Trade Commission between both countries, we made progress on a work agenda that includes the export of Bolivian products to the Chinese market, investments, lithium, BRICS, and other issues for the benefit of our peoples." In Colombia, several indigenous groups created a coalition under the name G9 to defend the Amazon in the midst of the United Nations Biodiversity Conference COP16. The indigenous peoples of Brazil, Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, Venezuela, Guyana, French Guiana, and Suriname achieved political alignment through the G9, a coalition that aims to get the world's governments to recognize that indigenous communities are the main authorities when it comes to conserving ecosystems and protecting animal species. The Amazonian peoples called for the preservation of biodiversity as well as respect for their territorial rights and direct funding in recognition of their role as guardians of nature. The G9 comes at a time when negotiations on a new body that grants the rights of indigenous communities are under debate. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net, and also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.